Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Johnson, and I'm the Director of Security Operations and Risk Management for Qumulus Solutions. Today, we're starting a webinar series with a few regional organizations that really allows you guys to hear it firsthand from them how Qumulus has helped form a partnership with them in tackling some of the cybersecurity challenges they face. First off, for those that may not know, Qumulus helps provide organizations with access to the people, expertise, and technologies they need in order to assist them in developing and reviewing their information security programs. One of the more technical services that we offer actually comes in the form of vulnerability scans and vulnerability assessments. These assessments help identify potential gaps in your technical infrastructure, such as outdated Windows machines, unpatched servers, and even services that you may not know are running that may be wide open to the internet. Our offering is actually unique in the fact that we can actually scan all of your IP addresses and not just the 100 that some organizations may include in their package, because we don't want to identify those gaps in a particular area of your environment, and 2 weeks later somebody else, maybe a hacker, finds a wide open glaring hole that we could have identified from the get-go. So we don't want that to happen, so we include all of your IP addresses in some of our packages and really tackle all of your environment from a technical standpoint. So with that being said, let's get to the fun and interesting part of today's webinar. So we've been a cybersecurity partner with Bremen Public Schools now for almost 2 years, and specifically working with our special guest today, Melissa Miller. So Melissa has worked at Bremen for 16 years, where she's held many roles, including a technician, a teacher, and a mentor. In the last 4 years, she's served as their technology director, where she manages a small team of 4, but she manages 1,500 students, 200 staff, and over 2,000 devices. So cybersecurity is definitely one of her priorities, and she strives to make this a priority for everyone in her district, and we've seen that from our partnership. So with that being said, let's see if we can bring in Melissa now.
Hi.
Hi, Melissa. Welcome to our Qumulus Partner webinar. It's great to have you.
Great to be here.
Awesome. All right. So obviously today is about the vulnerability assessments and what that is provided specifically for your organization. So, the very first question is I mean, why would you guys choose to do a vulnerability assessment for your environment? Being it is a small school, but obviously being cybersecurity is one of your priorities. So why would you choose to do something like that?
Well, first of all, I don't know what I don't know. So I think this scan helped us focus, because sometimes we get in our own little world and we miss the blaring link, obviously, because we're looking at this side, but there's something over here we're just not noticing. So that's a big part of it. The other thing is we have so many things to keep track of. There's only 4 of us. 2 of us are only really network people, so it's really hard for us to keep track of the patching sometimes, especially when we have staff members who might not be here for months at a time. I just send an email out to our staff, and some haven't been in this school for 5 months, saying, hey, before you even come back here, turn your device on, which you probably haven't turned on for 2 to 3 months, and start updating that thing, because you'll save a lot of time and heartache if you do it beforehand. So we just wanted to kind of just see what's out there, what we're forgetting, maybe something we might not even know about. So it was just a good place for us to start. So that, in the end, that's why we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we like to say in cybersecurity, and I know we've talked about it, is you can't protect what you can't see, and a lot of organizations are facing that. And you hit a really good point with the minimal staffing. And you guys are trying to get the students involved and making sure all the technology is working, while trying to also secure the whole organization. So I mean, it's a big undertaking, and a lot of organizations they don't have the staff or the funding to actually tackle cybersecurity, which is obviously why it's a good thing that we have this partnership and can kind of fill that void a little bit for you guys and really help that. So it's a challenge that not just schools are facing, but many organizations in your shoes. So when we started talking about the vulnerability assessment, so I guess what were your expectations and kind of understanding of an assessment and what that would actually entail before we actually performed that?
Truthfully, I didn't have a lot of expectations because I just wasn't sure. I knew that Brian would come in here, he'd turn the computer, and then he'd scan everything, and that he'd find some stuff that we needed to work on. But I didn't know exactly what that would entail, what that would look like. It was a little nerve-wracking, the first one, because you're just like, oh my gosh, is my network just going to be like horrible? And I just didn't know all of these horrible things were going on. It was a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, you guys talked me through it. I knew that you would scan it and then I'd get a bunch of information, but I didn't know what that information would be, what it would look like what's it going to be like so ridiculous that I like, how do I even start type situation, Wasn't sure.
Yeah, and that's the beauty again of having those, kind of the overall process, having those meetings and everything like that. So what did you think of as far as the actual process of the vulnerability assessment from the beginning to kind of the, during it and then even after? Because, there are some scary things with we come in and say, oh, we're going to just scan everything. It's like, well, let's try to, hope, things don't get knocked out. But, Brian is very good at what he does. And obviously there's always a chance of something like, something like that happening, but for the most part we're trying to identify all those with you and really that process. So just give us your thoughts on that.
Actually, the overall process, it really wasn't that bad. It was you guys really talked us through it, and I've worked with you guys for a while by that point, and I had known Brian, who does our scanning, for years. He actually worked here with me for a long time, so I was very comfortable putting him on a network that he already kind of knew. So that was nice for us. That was a nice advantage. That was a comfort for me. The beginning parts, making sure you guys had all the information and stuff, you guys were real good about telling us what you needed from us. So we were able to gather that, make sure he had all that information. And then he came in the first time and did all there. The second one he did it remotely. So honestly, he just came in for part of the day, set up what he needed to set up, went home, and for the next couple of days, he called me if something happened and he needed me to reboot the device or whatever. And it just went. And then we'd wait, I don't know, a few weeks, and then we get the big old report. And the report is probably the part that's most like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do with this thing? But other than that, the process was fairly simple, in my opinion. It wasn't hard on us. We had to do the after part of it, but the actual assessment part wasn't that bad.
And I think you made a point too, as far as talking about the remote kind of scanning and how it's, a lot of it is really hands off for the most part, for as far as the whole process. So I think, would you say that would be something that, not only your organization moving forward, but other organizations could really take advantage of during kind of this weird time that we're in, as far as not on site and really still tackling their cybersecurity, initiatives, really?
Oh yeah, remote, it makes a huge difference there. You don't have to worry about trying to get you guys in here. You guys have your own rules, we have our own rules. I mean, right now they're not as bad in the school because there's literally only like 10 people in the school at this moment, but you still have to be careful and make sure that everybody knows there's somebody from the outside coming in. You don't want a surprise at this point in time. So the remote is so much nicer. And I think it's nicer for the engineer because he doesn't have to sit here listening to us. And when he first was here, schools and sessions, kids are coming in and out of our office all the time. Staff's coming in and out of our office all the time. It's not a quiet office, so it's hard to concentrate sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. So, you mentioned the big long report. Obviously that's the whole, kind of the whole point of doing the scan is really to have that roadmap and the deliverable of, okay, where, because, that's really what you guys had as the question. Where do we start? What do we tackle? And those types of things. So, obviously you mentioned a big long report, but give us your thoughts on that. And then, from that, let's talk about that process as far as the report goes. Well,
of course, you guys give me the report before we meet. And the first time I got it, I was like, what in the world does this even mean? What am I supposed to do with this? I mean, I could tell which one was the high risk versus the low risk, which, okay, that's great. But I was like, I don't know where to start for this. But then you guys sat down, we talked about how to read the report. And it was actually really simple. You guys have it really set out well. You got the high, low, like medium and stuff, but then we also have it by IPs. I can organize it by an IP address. I can see where it's at. And the best part was you can start with the really high risk stuff, the stuff that, you have that list and you can see all this stuff. Some of it's real simple. Like the first one we did had a lot of older Java. Well, we don't need Java for 99% of what we do around here. So I just uninstalled Java on all those machines that I know they don't need it anymore. So that knocked off a lot of it. And then some of it is a little bit more complicated, especially when you come to, it doesn't have a certain patch to it. But the problem with that is sometimes that patch can be in a bigger update that Microsoft sent. So you have to figure out if that patch is part of that bigger update, because there's not a point in putting that patch down if that bigger update took care of it. So it went from really easy stuff that was maybe high, but then it also got a little bit more complicated stuff, but it helps you at least. I can knock a bunch of it off real fast and try to get to the other stuff later. So truthfully, we just took the high end, we went bam, 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 and then we did the middle. We didn't always get to the lower end stuff. And sometimes by the time we got to the lower end stuff, an update came around and fixed that situation. So we tried to just get to the really high stuff in between everything else. Try to get the easy stuff done quick, and then work our way through the stuff that takes a little longer.
Yeah, that's very smart because, in security and just, you're never going to be 100% secure. I mean, 100% security is never going to happen, but it's about reducing that risk and taking those. And I think Brian does a very good job. So he is our senior information engineer that leads the vulnerability management program. I think he does a very good job at, when he delivers that report, really explaining to you all how, and to organizations, how, reducing these vulnerabilities can overall reduce the risk to the environment and really protect, better protect yourselves, because again, it's not going to be 100% secure. Anybody that tells you that, run. It's just one of those things that, it's all about reducing that risk. So I think the report and having that meeting really sets the tone to put you guys on the right path to really tackle what you need to in a timely fashion. And that low-hanging fruit, like you mentioned, those easy wins can really help your constituents and your upper management and everything. Luckily you guys had the buy-in for all of this as well. That's a key important piece, for organizations, is really having that executive buy-in whenever you're trying to tackle, something important like cybersecurity. And you guys had that, so that was very, very good. So this was kind of a fun thing as far as, like, were there any wow, moments that were actually discovered, and not from a technical standpoint, so we're not going to get into the actual report, but just from that, wow, that I wasn't expecting to get that out of this report or something like that.
Well, I've been working here for a long time, and we have vendors that come in and out, and there was one thing I didn't realize is how many vendor things we have on this network. It's like, I had forgotten, for example, we have a cafeteria thermostat thing that has to go out, and it sends out information. So if it goes out, it tells the right people, hey, your freezer's out. I had totally forgot we had even put that on the network. I mean, that was they probably put that on like 7 years ago. I totally forgot about that. So it was like, oh my gosh, we have a lot of little vendors stuff all over this network. And the other one was like, oh wow, we have a lot of people who have older like Java software, because we have a few things that vendors have put on here that we have to pay to update, and they require like a 20 back version of Firefox or Java. So you're like, that helped me move forward to be like, I've been trying to get them to update that for years, and I used that report to say, look at how vulnerable this is making us, just because we won't pay to update that old product. So I got rid of Java in this entire district, except for like 1 or 2 machines that have some handful of weird software, but I can update that Java. It doesn't require me to have 30 versions back to make it run, Yeah.
No, and again, that's something that is a huge undertaking for organizations, and massive, large organizations will have a whole vendor management program and a team dedicated to that. Whereas, most organizations, I would say, they don't have the time and the staff to actually handle that. So when a vendor says, I need this access, I need to put this on there, people are like, okay, let's get it done, because you're in a time crunch. You're working on 500 other things, and that's where the vulnerabilities can lie. And that's why it's great to have a vulnerability management program and tackle those items. That way you're staying on top of those, on a more frequent basis, rather than, being there for however many years and then just coming across it. And that's what a lot of organizations are facing. So, that's a great point that you make as far as bringing that to light. And again, you can't protect what you can't see and you don't know about. So that's the whole, obviously one of the biggest points is in a vulnerability management program and assessment. So as far as, when we first came in and you had those kind of nervous, kind of not scary thoughts, but, kind of that I'm not sure what is actually going to happen. So between that and then, after we got done, did any of that change? Were you, moving forward, if we were to come back and say, hey, let's get a vulnerability scan going and different things like that, how does that change your perspective from the time we came into the actual seeing the report and sitting down and talking to us?
Well, we've had 2 so far, and truthfully, the second one was a lot less nerve-wracking because it's like, okay, the vulnerabilities they are giving me aren't something I can't fix. They're not something that I'm just like, what do you want me to do with this? I don't understand what does this mean type situation. So I just feel like it's a lot less nerve-wracking in general. I feel comfortable reading the reports. I feel comfortable about what you guys are going to find. You're not just going to find, well, Brian sometimes likes to find the nitpick because he just likes to bother me type situation. But, and the second time he told me that, he told me, okay, you're probably not going to have as many big issues since after the first one. So I am going to get a little bit more picky. So it may not be as big a problem, but it's little stuff. It's the little stuff that he's going to start finding that you need to work on. And he did find a handful of bigger stuff, not compared to what I did the first time. Like, I think there was 2 major problems. And one of them was like, oh my gosh, how did that even get through? I didn't realize that it was one of those things that we had decommissioned something, put something else in place of it, and somebody forgot that we needed to switch some stuff on our firewall. We just totally blanked out that we needed to do that. And so I appreciate because it just finds those things that, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. You get blindsided. You get busy. I start doing something and the kid walks in and I have to stop what I'm doing, or a staff member comes in and I got to stop what I'm doing. So then you go like, wait, where was I? And this helps me backtrack that. Like, oh, that's right. I was working on that and I totally forgot to go back to it. So to me, the assessment is a lot less nerve-wracking, and I feel comfortable knowing that I'm going to get some information that will just help me plug those holes that we didn't remember.
And it also helps in the fact of even having, bringing to light the patching schedules and maybe tweaking what you guys, maybe had in place before, and then saying, okay, well, maybe we can revamp this to do X, Y, and Z to make it, an easier process and all of that. So, you can that even helps, just kind of all of the procedures that an IT organization would end up, having to implement. And you make a great point about, kind of those nitpicking items to where, you have all of these glaring holes maybe at the beginning, and some organizations may be better than others, but, there may be, 10 in the first report that are, super critical. And then the next one is 2. And obviously that will vary month to month, as we've seen, because of, the different Windows vulnerabilities and even Macs and different things like that. So it obviously will vary month to month, but having that, the 2 scans so far, I mean, that's, and you guys you're on the right path, obviously, and doing those things, and you're getting that buy-in. So that's obviously helping, but, understanding that it's a needed thing in an organization can go a long way, just from, let's get it in, let's get it done. And we know what we're, kind of undertaking at that point. So, with that being said, kind of lastly, why was it important to you guys then to even have this vulnerability, assessment performed? And then, why would you recommend to other schools even, to have this done?
For us, I think it was important just because we are so overwhelmed some days. And I feel like we miss a lot of stuff. And I'm sure that's pretty much any organization, you know, there's not enough people for you to catch stuff. And like I said, we have a tendency to have people come in and interrupt us. We have teenagers on our network, and teenagers sometimes do stuff not on purpose. Sometimes they're just curious and they'll do something weird, and you're like, what were you thinking? They're like, well, I just wanted to see what it did, you know? So, and not to say adults don't do that too, but I've seen it more with the high school kids than I have anywhere else. You know, so it's just one of those things like, okay, what is going on? We just need to figure out, you know, so the scan really helped us just narrow that stuff down. And yeah, we have a filter, we have a firewall and all that stuff, but you still need to make sure that there's stuff that's not in your firewall that you forgot. You need to make sure that maybe that filter isn't catching something that it should be catching, stuff like that. As for why other people should do it, one of the things about that scan is it gives you like, yeah, the high stuff that you need to fix, but then it also goes medium, low, stuff like that. Sometimes that medium and low stuff becomes your high stuff eventually. So if you can take care of that when it's down in this tier, it'll help you in the long run. You won't have it when it's a bad problem. And again, like I said at the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. That's the main reason to have the scan. You just aren't, you might just not realize at all there's something going on. Somebody plugged in something that you didn't realize because you're not seeing any weird traffic out, but you didn't know they plugged it in. You're like, wait, where did that get in here? Oh, so-and-so decided to put it in there. Oh, thank you for telling us.
No, absolutely. And you know, I think a lot of it, you know, it obviously goes back to a lot of it is the staffing. It's the not having enough time in the day to tackle all of the items that when, you know, it's an entire IT department's responsibility to handle cybersecurity rather than, you know, a dedicated team or something like that, which, you know, still many organizations to this day don't even have, you know, somebody dedicated to cybersecurity. And, you know, that's where, you know, obviously Qumulus comes in to help and really, you know, kind of give that expertise and just talk things through, you know, with organizations to really tackle those initiatives. So, you know, I think you make great points about, you know, why the other organizations need, because there's so many that are in the same shoes as you guys are. And the fact, you know, getting on that right path and really starting, you know, down the taking cybersecurity even more seriously than it already was, and getting that executive buy-in and everything like that. Like those are, you know, just hands down the easiest first steps to, and the maybe arguably the most important steps to even start, you know, down that path is what you guys are doing. So it's, you know, we've enjoyed working with you guys, and, you know, we love to, you know, we love the opportunity to continue the partnership. And I know that we have some things coming down the pipe again. So it's, you know, it's very nice to see, you know, organizations in this region, you know, taking advantage of the services that we do offer, but understanding that it's a bigger goal in mind, is the fact that, you know, cybersecurity is very, very important, especially in today's world. And, you know, with the way, you know, COVID kind of came and pushed everything remote. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Home security now is, you know, top priority for a lot of people, because we're still working from home and we're doing those things, remote learning and different things like that. So it's got to be a top priority. So it's great to see local organizations and regional organizations taking advantage of that. So with that being said, you know, I really appreciate your time today and taking some time to record this with us. And you know, we look forward to continuing the partnership.
Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys. So if you guys need anything else, you can contact us online at cumulussolutions.com. You can find all of our services there, and have a great day.